a couple of moments? Okay, I got 3 people here who were here last night at St. Paul's, Nancy and Natalie and Joe. So I have to redo the whole sermon. So would you guys come back in about 15 minutes? It was tough last night, it's still tough. And it's tough because getting into the mindset of our teacher, who is our king. And we're Americans, we don't understand royalty at all. Not really. Except we, of course, we do have royalty in this country, don't we? Be honest. Celebrities, okay? Politicians? No. We have families that stay in power generation after generation. Does that not count? You know? But I know what you're saying, obviously. Okay. Our sports stars? What makes for royalty? Being in charge, being able to do, having power to do things that others can't do. The end of the church year, which is what this Sunday marks, the end of the liturgical cycle. And while our mindset as Americans is focused, and rightly so, on this wonderful American feast of Thanksgiving, things to be grateful for, and to notice the many things that we need to do so others can be grateful. Whereas to focus upon the kingship of Christ. And unfortunately, as I said, in our culture, that doesn't really ring a bell with us. This is a proclamation of Jesus with images of power and judgment and majesty. In our tradition, we speak of Jesus as king. We speak of him as priest. He's the priest who offered his life on the altar of a cross. He's a king who will claim dominion and one day will present for those of us who are members of his kingdom a way of life that is dominated by things like truth and holiness and grace and justice and love and peace and all the things we human beings really can't do very well on our own. But mixed with all this imagery of power in the upside-down world that Jesus calls us to as believers, as Christians, he gives us a warning and tells a story. You want to know who I identify with? You want to know what it is to walk with me? You've got to look at those who are the least important. We have a king who allies himself with the oppressed. He ate with those who were looked down upon. If you want to use any definition of the word sinner, and don't limit yourself to sexuality. That's not, we tend to do that in our media. But think of anything human beings are capable of doing that cause such pain and hurt. And yet those are the people that Jesus spent his time with. They were the poor. They were the people who didn't have anything. Or if they didn't, they would steal from you. He associated with the women you didn't want your daughters to become or your sons to date. He identifies himself with those who are the least. And he says, you want to see me and walk with me, then see me in them. The person of Jesus that we worship as King is the same person who still continues to walk with us in our own day. Jesus is still hungry. He still wears poor clothing. He's the person who comes to a soup kitchen. She's the person who comes to the back of this church sometimes on a weekday when I leave the back doors open because I know it's warmer in here than it is outside. This is the person who is in a nursing home waiting for no one to visit because no one will come. The person who's too busy to make a phone call. The person who walks into the back of a church on a Sunday morning or a Saturday evening, brand new, wondering will they be accepted when they're a total stranger. He's a person in prison who may not be the most wonderful person to visit. Part of my story, even the search committee that searched me out doesn't know this. 1978, 1979, I was the chaplain of Dutchess County Correctional Facility. Okay? So I have a different perspective. You think I'm snarky. You've got no idea. I had great teachers. But those who really do wish you ill, all your good intentions and all your prayers and all your good hope is not going to give them a change of heart unless the Holy Spirit does it. And yet Jesus identifies with them. Who is our King? The judge of the nations who makes us a promise and says, at the end of time, someday all of humanity is going to stand before me, and basically I'm going to look you all in the eye and I'm going to say, what did you do with the gifts that I gave you, and how did you act to those who needed you the most? Because what you did for the least important people, the most vulnerable, the ones who very likely either cannot or will not say thank you to you, the ones who need your love the most and who may reject it the most often, those are the people I identify with. And when you did something for them, you did it for me. And when you turned your back on them, you turned your back on me. So today we think about two things. You want to be a member of His kingdom, a citizen of His nation. Number one, whatever you do for others, let it be the simple things. You don't have in your power the ability to make people to stop hating each other. You can't stop the next bunch of crazies who are going to go to a mosque and murder 300 people while they're in prayer, or surround the black church down south and kill people who are in Bible study. You can't stop that, but you can love the person who crosses in front of you. You can give your love to the person who crosses your path. It's the simple things. You can give a little bit of extra food. We collect food here. It's a wonderful thing. My only sadness is you don't get to see the face of the person who gets it, unless you happen to get here at a time when someone arrives, or you happen to be down at the food bank at the time when someone is using it. It's the simple things that matter. And the simple things do matter. And the second thing is, don't worry about anyone else noticing it. See, unless you're Kim Kardashian and you have a camera following you all the time, most of the time, the good that you do, no one is going to know about. And that's okay. The good that we do, that no one sees, is actually seen. It's just that you're not going to get credit on your Instagram account for it. So this morning, the church year reminds us who it is we worship. And also reminds us something that makes us a little uncomfortable. You want to have real power? Real power is experienced in genuine relationships, in the time that you take to heal those who need to be healed. And when you love all, the lovable and the unlovable. So on this feast, Jesus makes us a promise. He says, someday, you're going to stand in front of me. And there's two choices. Those who took care of me and those who didn't. So which group are you going to be in? Amen.